Were you traumatized though by the events?
Of course, I went through different stages of traumatization, and it took many years for me to really come out of it, because there were times that I would just snap and just be very angry, and there were times that I would be calm, and there were times that I would not want to say anything to people. But gradually, with the help of a network of women sitting and talking together about our experiences, it helped. It helped.
Now you first worked for a church, and then later on you work as a coordinator of the Women in Peace Building Network of Liberia.
Yeah.
Was it a very new, modern idea at that time to
It
work,
was,
for an all women organization?
Idea. The idea was that West Africa at the time was plagued by a lot of conflict, internal conflict. Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea had its share. Cote d'Ivoire was having her own problems. We decided to start a West Africa Women in Peace Building Network. And I took that concept and back home to start a Women Peace Building Network. The idea was to have a group of women that would dedicate their time, their life, and their energy to doing community peace building activities. And so it was new because, yes, we're going through war, but most of the time when there were conversations about peace, you predominantly had men in the room. So all of a sudden, here we were bringing a group of women together to say, let's work and do peace work.
But how did you come up with the idea that women must play a role?
A friend, another woman, sat down and came up with that idea that women must play the role, and we all bought into the idea. One of the reasons why I personally bought into it, because when I worked for the church, we used to go from community to community doing peace work as part of the church activities. And most of the time, if we had 50 people we're working with, maybe only 2 were women. So I knew that there was definitely a gap, and that gap needed to be filled out. Almost 10, 12 years later, have we done filling the gap for women involvement in peace processes? I would say no, but that we have women in the forefront of doing peace work, I think we've done a great job here.
Why do you think women can play an important role in peace building?
I think women can play important roles in peace building because, one, I always say he who bears the greatest pain of any situation has some of the answers for that particular situation. When you look at conflict and conflict context, who are the ones who bear the greatest brunt? It's the women. They are the ones raped, they are the ones abused. But even before then, women are the ones who are in the community, and most often they have a knowledge of what and when or why a particular conflict started. And because people tend to minimize that knowledge as local knowledge, that's why they don't bring them to the formal table. But most often it's the women, and because they have such knowledge, women are knowledgeable about conflict. They understand the context, they understand the people they're working with. Most of the combatants in communities have engaged with these women either as mothers or cousins or aunties, or just as school teachers or nurses or doctors. So they who understand these young people, why don't they engage with them?
Weren't you afraid? Were you threatened?
Well, we were threatened, but afraid, no. I've lived with fear. I was 17 when the war started, and I was 31 when we started our activism work. That gap of years. There's no more fear. You're numb to fear. Because you ask yourself, what is there to be afraid of? Is it dying? You've seen people being killed. You've come close to dying. You've experienced the worst. So what is there to be afraid of? You know, it's you just have, you're in the state of numbness. You know, sometimes you can't cry. Sometimes when people expect that you cry, you are laughing. You mentally, you're not yourself. You're in a state of, so what is there to be afraid of?
What was the feedback or response of the public in the beginning? Like, what were these women doing?
Well, toothless bulldogs, they are seeking political recognition. They will soon get tired. They're looking for money. That was it. But then, first they, like Gandhi says, first they ignore you. Then they start to pay some attention to you. Then they acknowledge you, but then start having respect for you. So those were the kinds of things that happened. First, we were dismissed. Eventually, we're like, they've lasted a month. Maybe they're serious about this action that they're taking. And then after a while, wow, these women are definitely coming off as the hope of our society. So, yeah.
So what were some of your actions during that time to stop the civil war?
We woke up every morning, 6 a.m. There was a place where the president Charles Taylor, would go back and forth to work. We sat in there. So he would pass and see us with our placards, asking for peace. Sometimes we did media. We went to parliament, and sometimes we blocked where they were supposed to park their cars. We sat out there. We went from place to place sending letters out. It was a restless venture. We never rested. We were all up and about protesting.
Were there any moments that you might feel like maybe it's time to give up? This is getting
Oh
too
yes,
long.
when we went to the peace talks in Ghana in 2003, it was long, and then every morning we sat, we did the same activities, and then every day we heard news of over 200 people being killed. So you start to question the legitimacy of the work that you're doing, whether it was making any impact and things like that. So you want to really just step out of that space and leave. But then also you get calls by people that will say to you, you know, don't go. I think something will happen soon. I think you're giving hope to people. You are the hope of our community here.
Now, you made international news headline because of your sex strike. What was that about?
Well, when we started our protest action, one of the things we realized was that the men were the good men who weren't fighters, were also too complacent. They were not encouraging, like I said, they ignored us. They were not really getting, we didn't have a feeling like they had our backs. And so we decided, you know, whilst we're targeting the bad men in our protest, we need to do something that will make these good men also say they too need to do something. So we thought, okay, one of the ways to touch them, because some of them are our husbands, let's do a sex strike to catch their attention. And the day we made that announcement to the media, it was really taking attention. And some of the comments were, we didn't do anything. We are also afraid of the fighters. And then you're punishing us. So it's like we're getting punished double. But the thing was, okay, yes, even though you feel we're unjustly targeting you, but we think it's time that you also start saying something in your own circles about the war that is going on.
How did you come up with that sex strike?
You know, strangely, it was the Muslim sister that we had. One of them who was, I think we say she's a very naughty Muslim. She was the one who said, I think we should stop having sex with these men to get them to do something about what we're doing here.
She just said that?
Yes, and then we're like, that's a very good idea. We will do that, yes.
Oh, wow. You got a chance to meet with then President Charles Taylor. What did you tell him or talk to him about?
Well, when we went to meet with President Taylor, the women had given me a very neat speech. The speech was very sterile. And I looked at him and said to myself, for someone who has caused so much damage to this country, I think this speech will just really not convey the pains of the over 2,500 women who showed up this morning. So I put the speech aside and spoke from my heart and told him that we had come to the place as women of Liberia where we're very tired of the killings of our children, the rape and abuse. We were tired moving from place to place. I virtually spoke the reality of our lives to him, and that we're calling on him to put an end to the conflict by going to the peace table.
Did he actually comply?
It was at that moment, initially he had refused. It was at that moment that he stood up and said he will definitely go to the peace table.
So that's why the peace talk happened in Ghana?
Yes.
And then all of you went to Ghana
We
as well?
decided we'll follow, because if we stayed back also, we would not get the kind of results that we thought we would get. But also when we went to meet with President Taylor that morning, they offered us seats. They gave us chairs to sit. The women were sitting down on the floor. We were up, and they offered us seats, and we refused the seats and sat on the floor in solidarity with our sisters who were sitting on the floor. But also the explanation we gave him was that when we run from our homes because of the war, we don't run with chairs. We don't run with beds.
Oh, wow. And then in Ghana, you went to the conference, I mean, you and the other sisters, and then also protest there?
We protested for many days, and then we didn't see like anything was really happening. And one day we decided to lock all of the delegates in because they were not giving us the kind of results that we expected.
How long has the talk been going
It had
on?
been going on for almost 2.5 months.
And nothing happened?
Nothing was happening. People were like on vacation. So we decided we were going to, so we blocked the hall, and the security people decided they would arrest me. And I decided, okay, if you will arrest me, I will strip naked. And I started to strip naked. They came and said, no, don't do that. But in the rage of our moments, we had to let the warlords and the world know that we had gotten to the point where we were tired and nothing was changing, and we're taking action because nothing was changing.
Was it a curse or a bad omen
It's
in
a
Africa?
bad omen to
strip?
strip naked, especially in pain. For a woman to strip naked in pain is like a curse, you know. So when we tried to do that, someone asked one of the warlords, why were they all jittery? I mean, for a group of people who have committed the worst rape. And he said there was not a single man in that room that didn't ask himself, what have we done to bring our mothers to this place?
So it actually worked?
Yes.
And you got peace in 2003?
Yes, 2 weeks later, a peace
2 weeks
agreement
later.
was signed. Yes.